Hello and welcome to What Moves Us, the podcast where we ask what moves us, or more accurately, what's going to move us in future.
With the Rail Innovation Group's Johanna Randall and Liam Henderson, we look at debates, themes and decisions of the minute that will impact on the way we get about in the future.
It is the 2nd of December. Lockdown has finished. We're both in tier 2.
Yay!
So we still can't get together.
Party!
No, party.
So two things. So actually, it's interesting you said that 2nd of December, lockdown has finished. We're both in 2-2. So two things on the news this morning, so that I heard, even though I'm no longer watching the news, but it was on my alarm, was that people were queuing outside Birmingham.
Oh, Primark.
Outside Birmingham, big store Primark.
Yeah.
At 6 o'clock this morning because they just wanted to get ahead and get their Christmas shopping done. Obviously retail in the news because also unfortunately both Arcadia and Debenhams went in. Well, they were already in administration, but now that's at risk of quite a lot of jobs, so economically. But we had positive news this morning as well, which was that 2 of the vaccines had been approved for use.
I think one, isn't it, so far, but expected another one.
Oh, I thought both of them had been approved. I thought the Pfizer and the AstraZeneca one had both been approved. Did I get that wrong?
I think the AstraZeneca one is being strongly pushed towards approval, but not quite approved.
Oh, right, okay.
Because that's the one that we'll all get.
News before Christmas.
Yes. Yeah.
So everybody was celebrating on the radio this morning, I think. Quite interesting, isn't it? Sort of like, the innovation, because obviously one of the vaccines that has been approved is using tried and tested methodology invented by Edward Jenner for smallpox in the 19th century. So really quite, you know exactly what you're getting with the Oxford vaccine, shall we call, because it's using that methodology. But obviously we've got lots of ones that are using new methodologies, using innovative. And I think talking about what you were saying the other week when we were talking about the science behind it and how quickly that has happened in 8 months. Because what was that? What did you say? It was 10 years research. So, and how that's going to, not only is that going to help in the current to fight the current virus, but will also be a game changer for huge amounts of illnesses and viruses that we've not been able to find cures or vaccines for yet.
Hopefully by the time I'm old, they'll all be there to treat me. I've got loads of years.
So we're looking forward to Christmas then with this good news that there may be light at the end of the tunnel.
I mean, I think the government announcement where everyone has to travel on the same few days is going to add some drama over Christmas. I'm imagining a bit like the famous Chinese New Year getaway where everybody moves at the same time.
But do you think lots of people are going to go by public transport, or do you think it's just going to be a car park on the motorways?
Well, I think that's coming from a view of someone who doesn't live in London, who doesn't have a car, so we don't have a choice.
So you are actually travelling for Christmas.
I am.
You're going down to the New Forest.
By train.
And all your family are going there as well. Are they all going by train or are they going by car?
Well, let's just clarify. All my family within the household limits and guidance. Yes, they are travelling, but I know, are driving because they've got little children.
And we should have a little follow-up podcast in the new year on your experiences.
So
what days are you travelling on?
I am travelling on the 23rd to the 27th.
So the first day that you can travel, but of course you'll be travelling on South Western Railway, so you can just walk up and go, can't you? You don't have to buy a ticket.
Based on current plans, yes.
So
based on current plans.
Yeah, and the 23rd, is that a Thursday? Wednesday. See, I'm not too sure. See, just Christmas is passing me by. Well, I wouldn't say it's passing me by. I'm just in my bubble, and nobody's coming to join us. It's just going to be my husband and I.
Clarity: the rules are that you can mix with 3 households between the 23rd and the 27th, except if you're in Northern Ireland. So that means that because most of the railway is closed on Christmas Day and Boxing Day, you have either the 23rd or the 24th to travel to your Christmas celebration. And then if you use public transport, you can only travel back on the 27th, which is a Sunday service. So all the people that use the train can only travel on one day during a Sunday service.
Some trains will run on the 26th though, won't they? Because you do still, because some of the Thameslink services still run.
Yeah, but
and
the
I'm
long
not quite
distance
sure
trains don't run or
what
anything.
sort of like Leeds Manchester runs as well. And obviously there's TfL buses and things as well. And National Express still run. National Express run on Christmas Day and Boxing Day.
Very high capacity, those coaches, I hear.
So there are options. I don't have a feel for really how it's. I think it's either going to be one of two things. I think either everybody is just going to think I'm either not going anywhere, and if I do go anywhere, I'm going to go by car. So I think unless it's like somebody like yourself who does not have the option of going by car, those will be the people that will travel if they want to.
I think far more people in the country don't have a car than you may appreciate.
No, I know lots of people don't have a car, but I think the fear factor of travelling by public transport for a lot of people is so great that I think I think people will just stay put if they can't go by car. And as you know, I was talking to you about a friend who has even had COVID, and even she won't travel by public transport.
Oh, that is bizarre.
Because there is that fear, because I think there is, even if you've had COVID, I think there is such an anxiety that has been built up in terms of getting the illness that you just don't want to risk it. I mean, and I would say, I wouldn't say I have an anxiety, but I don't want to get it. I mean, I'm still traveling by public transport, and I have been even throughout the, this latest lockdown. If I want to, in the main, I've still been cycling or walking. But if I want to get the bus into Brighton or whatever, I have still been getting the bus. And I've, so my behaviour hasn't changed that much in that sense, but and I feel perfectly safe. But I think after 9 months, if you haven't had it, I think, particularly as we're so close to the vaccine as well, is that if you haven't had it, I don't think you really want to get it now, because it's a bit like that. I've been through all of this, lockdown, pain, restriction, not seeing my family. Why would I risk it at the last hurdle? And I think there will be a lot of, even those people that aren't that scared are probably thinking that, and doing our own little risk assessments. And I think that probably leads on to my other, point that, and your point as well about, not many people, there are lots of people who can't drive or don't have access to cars or whatever. And I think that will lead to maybe chaos, but maybe not, because maybe the people who can't drive or don't have access to cars will actually be starting to travel now, because will maybe mainly the student population. And if you say, for example, next at University of Sussex and Brighton University, they're starting to travel home next week. And this week they've been doing testing at the university, and I'm sure they've been doing that at all universities throughout the country. And as soon as a student has had two negative tests, then they're free to travel home.
Yes.
So maybe the people that don't, that will be traveling public transport will be more distributed than maybe that Christmas rush. But if it is going to be, I think it'll be worse than Maundy Thursday, which is traditionally the busiest railway day of the year.
Well, whilst we've been on the call, I have been looking at the rail websites. Incidentally, I forgot to say, for my
have they released the reservation system yet?
Yeah, right. So here's a quandary for you. So you have an affinity with Pitlochry.
Yes.
So if you want to get the sleeper train back from your Christmas celebration, and sleeper train doesn't run on Saturday night, so that would be the night of the 26th, you could only get it on the night of the 27th, but then you'd be arriving after the window of travel has finished.
Oh, yeah, but 28th, what day of the week is 28th?
A Monday.
So Monday, it's officially a working day, isn't it?
No, because it's the Boxing Day bank holiday.
Oh,
But the government allowance for travel finishes on the 27th.
oh. So are you
However,
breaking the rules?
you would be if you arrived on the sleeper train on the morning of Monday the 28th. But it's irrelevant anyway because the sleeper train is sold out, as I just looked on their website. Now I'm going to try a journey to leave London in the build up to Christmas.
Because last time I looked, they hadn't released any seats.
Oh, I think they will have, and they're selling quite quickly.
Because I know that there was a bit of, because I know last week, wasn't there, there was a bit of controversy in respect of the government asking the railway to delay engineering works to allow the Christmas getaway and to allow people to get home and that. And I think it's quite difficult to do. And I don't know whether ministers or parliamentarians understand how many years some of the engineering works would have been in the planning, because when you think about, I think King's Cross will have limited services over Christmas because they're currently in the middle of a big upgrade program on the re-signalling. So, and that would have been, that has been in planning for about 10 years, I think. So it's really difficult to stop work or delay work, and people would have been booked to do the works and that.
Yes. So I think yes, but if you're a consumer and you're now looking at it being a really busy period, it seems from the public point of view, how on earth have you not managed to do these works for the entire year where no one has been on a train, especially
I guess that's
periods, and then you run the works at the time when everyone needs to travel.
But I guess that's the point, isn't it? That you don't make these decisions 3 weeks before this work has been, because this work would have been planned, this would have been in the calendar as long as 3 years ago. And how these projects work in terms of the project planning, and the fact that the nearer you get to the actual dates, the more assurance you need that the project is going to go ahead. So if you were going to make it, if during the context of the pandemic, if you were going to make a decision to, say, move the engineering work, even if it was just 4 days, the time to have done it would have been at the latest 12 weeks ago.
Yes, but
taking
the view of the consumer and newspapers, for example, that just sounds extremely inflexible and not responsive to demand and need. It will be another reason why people complain about railways.
I don't think this issue is the railways' problem. I think it's the government and ministers and being indecisive about how they're planning things and what they want to do. And I think that not just railways are extremely frustrated, but I think businesses are extremely frustrated that they can't seem to be able to plan and stick to simple rules. Because I think, to be quite honest, anybody could have foreseen this was going to be needed 3 months ago. And Grant Shapps could have had a conversation with Andrew Haynes and train operators and said, this is the plan I want over Christmas. They could have planned for that, and they could have done that over the summer, but they didn't do it. And I think it's just typical of policymakers and government of just putting their heads in the sand and hoping things will go away, and only dealing with it at the last minute rather than dealing with it when it's probably easier to deal and to plan for. because, you know, it's a bit, I mean, you only have to look at, you know, I mean, was it in July, you know, or September, when it was before sort of like cases started going up again, where Boris was saying it will all be over by Christmas. You know, it was that typical, you know, over optimism. I mean, I think there is a term for it, Stockdale syndrome, where, you know, where people are over optimistic when actually what you want to be is you actually want to be, to a certain extent, over pessimistic and plan for the worst, but actually get the best. Because actually, if it had been all over for Christmas and they'd have planned it, then it would have been so much easier to have put it back in.
Okay, well, be flexible.
You see, and it's as a result of that now the consumer is dissatisfied, because you've got to remember, it's not, I mean, like, this isn't a private business anymore. This is completely being run by central government.
Yeah.
So there is no power in the railway to do anything at the moment, because it is being directed by central government. So this is anything that goes wrong over Christmas is purely at the hands of central government, and that's why you can't run things from central government. And I'm not advocating nationalisation or privatisation, just that you can't run things from central government. You know, the test and trace system has shown this, you know, the way the whole, you know, it is all, you can't centralise these things. Things have to be run from people that know what's going on the ground.
Right. Well, there is a Christmas Tsar who has been put in charge of making sure the transport works. So now they have someone to blame.
But again, too late.
Now they have someone to blame.
Too late. Put in too late.
Okay.
That was fun.
Well, yes, something like that. Okay. We're going to talk to Deb in a minute about the work streams we're doing for the Rail Innovation Group. So after our wildly successful meetup last week about taking cargo on passenger trains, again, showing they can be flexible. So we will bring her in a minute.
That is going to be a great story.
So,
hi, Deb.
Hello.
I should say that we have just paused for a few hours, and now you have a Christmas hat on, Johanna.
I'm guessing out the decorations.
You can see there's a sleigh in the background as well.
So what's in the background?
A sleigh.
A sleigh, yes, I do have a sleigh in the background. It's quite good, actually, isn't it? Shall I show you? To make a little hallway Christmas display, just in case Santa doesn't know where to come or anything, or needs some assistance.
Oh, isn't that is lovely. I love
it's a cardboard box, and you can put presents in it if you like as well. I've got foxes and all sorts of things to go with it.
On December 2nd.
On December 2nd, I like it. I think everyone's going all in for Christmas early this year, aren't they? Just to try and raise their spirits.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether I should confess this, but I have actually had my tree up since October. And I always have 4 trees, so I only had the 1 tree up, and now I'm just getting the rest of them done as well. So I've actually spent the intervening periods getting my outdoor Christmas display done, so it's all lit up and everything for later on today.
Wow.
I love Christmas.
Yeah,
I can tell.
I love Christmas too. I love Christmas.
Now, Deb, you often join us when we have big news from Rail Innovation Group. So tell us what you're working on now.
Well, we've got 2 very exciting projects on the go at the moment. We have got one which is looking at ticketing. I mean, I'm probably going to get you to talk more about the detail of it, but what we are trying to do is to pull together some kind of a piece of an article or a thought piece initially that's going to be of interest, looking at I suppose ultimately how the rail industry can work towards a more kind of streamlined approach to ticketing. That's what we're doing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we are going to use our sort of innovation community to help us with that. So yeah, say some more about that, Liam.
We did a workshop, and we had a vision for a future ticketing system that was ticketing both the ability to travel, like as though the actual ticket, and also what happens in the background to make the journey, to give you ability for the journey. I can see Johanna nodding.
I am nodding.
So
very good stuff.
Yes, so we're going to get involvement from the members and write really a vision and what you could get to, whether it's with cryptocurrencies or anything else, how you basically just don't need to go through this very laborious process of buying a ticket for every journey. You could just streamline, go through journeys.
It's kind of putting the travelling passenger at the centre of the ticketing kind of concept, isn't it, really? Which you would think would be.
I was going to say there's
anyway, as it's the travelling passenger that is paying for this ticket, but I feel like it's kind of everything else has come ahead of the fact that actually what you need is a user-friendly ticket. You don't want to necessarily have to buy millions of different tickets or search forever for a cheap, ticket or what have you, and all of that. It's like, this is a new beginning post-COVID, as everyone is saying, including the government. This is an opportunity to look at things differently. And I guess, a lot of things on the transport system have been kind of paused or slowed down at the moment. So it's a good time for the industry to kind of really look at that, and an opportunity to actually make some changes, because that's what's needed.
Yeah. It is interesting to think how much things will or will not be different. Say we fast forward to Christmas 2021 and we have a vaccine, and life has returned to the way we want to enjoy and live our lives again, and we've been partying all summer and everything. It will be interesting to think how much of our behaviour from 2020 will stick and how much of it will go back, because I think in researching for this ticketing piece, and also in some other webinars and things that I've seen with the Railway Industry Association and Ukraine and stuff, there almost seems to be a train of thought going that people will start travelling back to public transport, but the railway industry or bus companies, whatever, are going to have to work a lot harder to win those customers back, because of the fact that there'll be a period where people, because they're not travelling so often, might be more inclined to get in their car or other modes of transport.
Yeah, and I think all of this, everything that's happening, I think next year is going to have to sort of, or should hang on the kind of sustainability, climate change kind of sort of banner, overarching kind of banner, because you've got COP 2026 in November, and you've got people like, I don't know, Mark Carney saying we need to be doing things differently as a country, as a not just as a country, but as a global community, really. So even ticketing, if you're going to encourage people back to a sustainable form of transport, then ticketing has got to work, because that's got to be part of the story of why people might want to go back to sort of traveling wherever they're traveling, not using their cars. But to do that, like the end-to-end journey kind of argument needs to work. And the main way that does work is if you don't have to buy 3 different blooming tickets, let's face it. So I think you could certainly hang that on the kind of argument for, this is part of the UK's drive to net zero, to achieve net zero.
Which apparently, rumour has, is the government is under pressure to bring it forward.
Well, it probably is. Lots of the sort of big companies that operate in the UK are giving themselves internally targets much sooner than 2050. So 2030, which sounds like a long way away, but it's actually it's 10 years away, rather scarily, which is not very long, is it, to make the sort of changes that are probably going to be necessary to kind of decarbonise our economy.
And it's interesting about having more challenging targets, isn't it? Because when Liam and I were talking earlier, we were talking about, isn't it amazing with the announcement today that one of the vaccines has been approved, and that has been developed in 8 months. And so when there's an imperative there, we can do stuff. And I think what's interesting, if you take that leap forward to say 2030, about what type of world we want to be and what type of behavior we need to change, is that actually this year, in the context of world history, will seem a blip in comparison to climate change. And so, given that, you know, when we apply our minds and put effort and funding into it, we can achieve these things. So maybe we should stretch ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right, Johanna. It's like the imperative is there. It's where it obviously the imperative has been there for developing a vaccine to this, you know, to this virus, because it's, you know, it's caused our economy to come to a grinding halt essentially. But I suppose for the climate, it's more about, you know, making the right people, you know, leaders in the right areas.
As you know,
imperative.
Same will happen in the climate.
Yeah.
It will affect the economy. I mean, you only have to look, I mean, just conservative research by the King's Fund shows that 40,000 people, sorry, my phone's just ringing. 40,000 people in the UK alone die as a result of pollution in our atmosphere. This is through, you know, lung conditions, asthma, you know, whatever it is. So that's a year. Yeah. And that is, you know, when you contextualize it against the COVID-19, that's still 80%, you know, 80% of the same amount of deaths as COVID-19. Given that we now have a vaccine, that will now start to decline, whereas deaths from pollution will continue to get up grow unless we do something about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. Well, that's so. You asked me to, going back to your original question, which is what else are we doing? So we're doing the ticketing thing, which we can come back to. But I will also say we're doing a piece of work on looking at how rail and e-cargo bikes can be kind of a winning combination in kind of end-to-end parcel deliveries, especially for sort of city regions. So we've been looking at. We had a workshop, didn't we, last week? Was it last week? I must say my concept of time this year has gone completely off.
Yes.
So
I have no idea. When's Christmas? I have no idea.
I can't, once something's happened, I can't quite work out when it happened. That doesn't matter what it is, whether it's kind of a meeting or a major sort of family event or anything. It's really very odd. I don't know how that's happening. But anyway, at some point, not today, we had a workshop. We had a really, really good kind of wide-ranging set of people, some of obviously the Rail Innovation Group sort of family and connections and wider, to sort of consider what's actually happening in that kind of space around, you know, rail and e-cargo bikes and where things are happening. I think, well, I certainly didn't realise, I didn't know that anything was really happening actually. So it was really interesting to hear from quite a few people who are already running quite long-standing projects. For example, bringing medical supplies into a city, and then, you know, ferrying them off on e-cargo bikes. But again, a project that sort of hangs on this whole kind of, you know, sustainability sort of policy area. So I think for us, what we are going to do is try and sort of pull together into one place a bit of a kind of, this is what is happening in the sector, and this is why it isn't being developed more widely, we think, and this is what needs to happen for it to become more of a kind of the norm.
This is a huge opportunity. Yeah,
there is a huge opportunity, I think. But again, it's about doing things differently. So it's where I think the Rail Innovation Group has got quite a good, well, certainly it's a good place for us to be, isn't it? To be sort of trying to shake things up a bit, I suppose. Disruptor.
I thought it was a really interesting workshop, you know, as you say, you know, sort of like the stuff that is going on. But what I also thought was really interesting, because I'd say over the last decade, I'd been having various conversations with some of the people on the workshop, you know, from Rail Freight Group, and I mean, like Doodle weren't there, but you know, from when I was at King's Cross Station, and I think what was interesting about, you know, and you know, to your comment, was just how slow progress is and why isn't more happening, and why we aren't innovating quicker, and why it's so difficult to get to get stuff like this off the ground? You know, where is that imperative to do it?
Yeah, and also what are the blockers? And I think this is something that this project is going to be able to kind of hopefully unpick. It's like if we can talk to one of the participants of the workshop who was telling us on that workshop that they've been running a service like that for the last 10 years, and you think, well, that's great, and I want to hear more about it. But why is it that we haven't, that hasn't started to be kind of replicated out in other areas? You know, it felt to me a kind of, and obviously we're at the beginning of lots of different conversations, so I could be completely wrong, but it felt to me like it was sort of being done just, it felt like the rail sector and the logistics sector are working in parallel, not talking to each other. That's what it felt like, kind of it was being done despite the logistics in with it, you know. And I feel like that might be where one of the blockers is, but to be honest, I'm yet to sort of find out any more, really.
So look forward to hearing more about that then.
Yes, definitely. Well, we want to try and put a sort of an initial paper together that looks at where we might, well, you know, how we could support that kind of being rolled out in a bit more of a kind of sophisticated way. But also we need to speak to people that might want to fund that project going forward. So if you're listening and you might be interested,
we're looking to do some pilots.
Yeah, exactly. We could do some pilots. We can, you know, there's lots of things we could do with that. It's quite an exciting project, I think.
That does sound exciting.
It is very exciting. I am very excited.
I expect to see you on a bike at the next meetup.
Oh no, no. I can't. I'm not very good at riding bikes anymore. I'm too scared of the traffic.
That's why we've got the segregated cycleways, except the one in Kensington that's just been ripped out.
Yeah, well, I live in Kent. Our cycleways they're not joined up. There's just bits of them, and then you have to join the main road.
Know.
Never a good thing, is it? Really. I used to be an avid cycler on the roads, as in I used to use my bike as a mode of transport, not just I'm going out for a bike ride. I used to use my bike to get from A to B, but I don't.
I certainly used my bike more when I lived in London than I do outside of London, and it's exactly that. It's just that I mean, because people always say to me, "Well, you used to cycle in London," but I actually find cycling in London quite safe because a lot of it is segregated, but also I think just by sheer amount of traffic, nothing's going terribly fast.
No, I know. I walk everywhere. I'm an avid walker, so I walk places to get from A to B. Doesn't matter, you know. I'm always amazed at how many people don't actually, if it's longer than 5 minutes, think, oh no, I'm not walking all that. I mean, I'd happily walk an hour to get somewhere, you know. It doesn't bother me, and it's a nice way but then you do notice things like, you know, where you can cross roads safely and all that kind of thing, which as a pedestrian is really, really important. And in some places, you know, well, where I live, they've kind of nicked the pavement to the cycles, to the cycle paths, which is equally not, I don't think, you know, it's not really
That's not right, is it?
No, because I think actually what you want to do is encourage people to walk as well, you know.
Yes, you do. Well, the new hierarchy that they've been trying to lobby to put into the highway code does have pedestrians at the top and cyclists.
Yeah. And I'm totally down with that. It's amazing how, unless you walk places, you know, you don't realise those kind of things. You know, you think actually, how can you get from that side of the road to that side of the road?
I find it ridiculously cheeky when there's roadworks. The roadworks will stop the pavement and say pedestrians cross the road, but they won't impinge the traffic.
Yeah. Is it what it is?
So
it's
as
like
a pedestrian, you get really inconvenienced and have to walk around.
Because roadworks probably don't get measured for disrupting pedestrians, but get measured for disrupting traffic.
So that's.
But I wonder, going back to the topic, if there's more cargo bikes. So there's some news story about FedEx starting to use cargo bikes. I wonder if, as more people move to rely on bike lanes, cargo bikes, then you'll start to get corporations also now putting backing behind cycle lanes, because it's the only way they can reliably get their freight to a destination, because they can't sit in traffic. They can't guarantee by 10 a.m. if their vans are all stuck in traffic.
That's an interesting thought and an interesting way to change behaviour, isn't it? Because you're influencing the corporates and them and their sustainability models that they want to build, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I was picking through the stuff about the Thames crossing, which the planning application seems to have gone in and then come back out again. I was thinking, oh, I wonder whether that's to do with, because I'm sure there's going to be, there's 100% going to be legal challenges to the government on investing in something which is just purely a road scheme,
You have got to think that the road schemes are all under threat.
They are under threat. I'm not saying obviously that we're never going to build any roads in this country, of course, but
a new motorway.
If the imperative is, and I get that obviously everyone wants to move towards electric cars and all that kind of thing, but still, there's issues with congestion and all those kind of things. It's if that imperative is to, to decarbonise the transport system and encourage people onto more sustainable forms of transport, then it does, one would imagine, make the business case for building things like the Thames Crossing as it stands quite difficult, or more difficult.
The thing people need to consider when we make this switch from petrol and diesel cars to electric cars, that in terms of space, an electric car still takes up the same space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It still needs to get its energy from somewhere, regardless of whether that is a sustainable source or not. But I think for me, one of the most compelling reasons why we should still look to drive less and to choose other modes of transport is that you still get pollution from electric cars in the high street, from brake dust and from the tires and things like that. It is only the energy that a car uses is only part of the pollution that it creates.
Yeah.
And so I think when people are thinking about that decarbonisation and what we do individually and also as a country, that we need to consider what all the options are and not just what that one aspect of it.
Well, that's an interesting thing, though, isn't it? Because if the imperative is going to be, keep going back to this imperative for our net zero thing that we have as a country got to kind of get to, if that's the imperative, then actually everything else, if you can, we hopefully might get back to some kind of evidence-based policy making, I suppose, which I think we've kind of fallen slightly short of.
Maybe that's a job for us for next year.
Yeah.
That we talk about the imperative and getting back to evidence-based decision making.
Exactly, yeah, because that's surely where we need to be, isn't it? Because then you don't have to listen to shouty people necessarily. You can listen to the evidence.
Yeah, but the local authorities still, it's politics.
Well,
they listen to the ones that shout loudest.
But politics used to be about weighing up experience and evidence and views and that,
exactly.
and then making the decision on a balance of or what the evidence was telling you.
What the evidence is telling you and what's best for the community that you're serving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because politics is about making tough decisions sometimes. Because
unpopular decisions.
Unpopular decisions. Because in 1983, it would not have been popular for everybody to wear seatbelts. It was not a popular decision. But could you imagine getting in a car now and not wearing a seatbelt?
Yeah.
Some of the things that we used to be able to do, we just consider mad. And I think in the context of 2020, I think it's quite interesting saying that, that what appears normal yesterday can actually appear abnormal today, so in 2030 we might be looking back and saying, actually, isn't it mad that we all used to get in cars and do this and that and that cars could go down high streets and they weren't pedestrianized and stuff. We could think that because it's a bit like just bringing it around to trains again. I'm like, just imagine, because as soon as sort of like 15 years ago, you could still get on a train and you could open the door while the train was moving.
Yeah, I know.
It is madness.
It is
some of these things will appear madness in the future. We have to, when it comes to this imperative, we have to think about that.
Yeah, we do. That is very true.
Well, keep us updated on your work stream.
I will keep you updated. Yes, ticketing and e-cargo. Here we come.
Johanna, I will see you soon.
Take care.
So thanks for listening to another episode of What Moves Us. We hope we moved you. For more episodes, you'll definitely want to subscribe to our channel.
Until next time.